Hi, I'm Darcy Priester, an Instructional Technology Resource Teacher. In this video series, I spotlight EdTech tools and how you can integrate them effectively into your classes.
Welcome to a new episode of Tech Tuesday. Today, I'm focusing on how to create instructional videos. As I've been conducting training sessions in my building and virtually, it occurred to me that I've never done an episode on instructional videos. I'm talking about the ones that are pre-recorded and will be used for direct instruction or lectures or to walk students step by step through an activity or app. The very videos we need right now. In this episode, I'm also going to talk with one of the teachers in my district, Corinne Miller, about how she is approaching instructional videos and how to film them. So let's jump in. The key to successful instructional videos is to remember that your videos should be no longer than 10 minutes. Any longer and students will disengage. If you need more than 10 minutes, create 2 shorter videos that can be broken up and watched at different times. Just like any Hollywood blockbuster, we're entering the pre-production phase. This is where you will plan out what concepts you will cover, storyboard, and create slide presentations or gather your physical manipulatives. The more planned out you are in this stage, the better and more effective your final result will be. First, look at your standards and decide what are the important points you need to cover. Unfortunately, you can't cover as much with remote learning as you can with face-to-face learning. So you need to look at what is essential for your students to know. Next, storyboard and/or script out your video. You could use a storyboard template like one of these, write a whole script, or simply create talking points for yourself to go over. Items you will want to consider include: how will you open your video and hook your students? What essential points will you make? Will you share your screen and walk students through a website or activity? Depending on your video, you may or may not need to do this. You may be just doing direct instruction. But if you are walking students through an activity or how to use an app, make sure to be clear and concise in your instructions and what your expectations are for the activity and what you want students to do. You may want to do this in a second video, breaking up the lecture from the activity instructions. You will certainly want to do a separate video if you are using a tool or app that is new to students, modeling exactly what students need to do and allow them time to play with the tool before turning in a graded assignment. I'll model what I'm talking about in the next phase. So once you've planned out how your video will go, it's time for the production and filming phase. This is where you will film your instructional video. Now, I want to give you some tips before you film. If you are filming in a seated position, like sitting at a desk, I recommend using either a laptop with a web camera or a phone on a small tripod set in the horizontal position. With your laptop, you may also want an external microphone. The current laptop that I have has a great internal mic and picks up my speaking voice very easily. But the laptop I used to have always had a buzzing sound when I recorded, and so I used an external microphone plugged into my laptop. It could be a simple one like this, or a more robust microphone like the ones pictured here. Definitely do some test runs with your laptop and see if you get any kind of feedback using your internal mic first. Then decide if you need an external one. And note, I am not advocating that you go out and buy an expensive microphone. If you feel you absolutely need an external mic, there are plenty of inexpensive ones available. I'll link to suggestions in the episode notes. If you are filming from a standing position or are lucky enough to film from your classroom and will be demonstrating concepts on a board, a whiteboard, an interactive board, whatever your school may have, I recommend using either your phone or a video camera or even an iPod Touch that has a camera. No matter which of these three you choose, I would set it up on a tripod. This way the camera won't move and you can set it to the right height, which should be parallel to your face. You could use a laptop if absolutely necessary, but remember, it needs to be sitting somewhere pretty high to capture your face and your upper body, because you don't want to look like a floating head either. You will also want to consider your lighting when recording. Most classrooms should have good enough lighting. It will probably be at home that you will want to find a good spot in a well-lit room facing towards the windows. You don't want light coming in through a window behind you because it creates a halo effect and it'll be tough for viewers to see you. I'll add more recording and lighting resources in the episode notes. Then it's time to record. The biggest piece of advice I can give when recording is don't stop recording when you make a mistake. Stop yourself, take a breath, and start your last thought or sentence again. But keep recording. You can fix most mistakes in editing. But if you're like me, I don't have anyone helping me when I film. So when I'm recording, if I make a really major mistake, I have to stop and then go over to my camera, stop recording, and then start recording again, and then come back over to the place that I was standing. And I'm never standing in the same spot that I was when I was filming just a moment ago. The more that you move in and out of the camera view between takes, the harder it will be when you go into editing. It looks like that you've been jumping around. And secondly, at least for me, the more times that I start and stop, the more pressure I put on myself to make it perfect. It's not ever going to be perfect. And if you make a mistake, it shows your students that you're human and that you can shake it off and keep going. Also, and this is hard, when you make a mistake where you have to start over again, take a couple of moments to not move before starting again, because you give yourself space in editing to cut the clip and piece clips together without it being too choppy. Do the same thing when you're done filming and when you say your goodbye or conclusion. Stay in that same position for an extra few seconds before walking off camera. It will save you a lot of frustration later. So, if you're just filming direct instruction, this process will be fairly easy. Just record yourself talking or demonstrating on the board or doing a lab. It becomes a little more complicated when you add screen recording. So let me model this for you. Let's say I'm creating an instructional video and introducing Pear Deck to my audience for the first time. I'll open up any applications I need first and set up my screen, including my screen recording program, which is WeVideo. In WeVideo, I will want to set the program to record both my screen and my web camera, so that while I'm explaining Pear Deck and showing my audience where they need to go, they can still see my face and connect with me. Then I'll start recording and go through the app step by step, just like this.
Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to create a Pear Deck lesson using a template. The first thing that you want to do is go into Google Slides. Once inside Google Slides, you will click on Add-ons and go down to the Pear Deck add-on and click on Open Pear Deck Add-on. This will open a new window on the right side of your screen. Then you'll want to go to the template library. And there are a variety of templates included in this library. everything from lesson builders to learning development to specific subject and content areas. For today, we're going to click on critical thinking. Then you get a preview of all of the different templates available. And to insert one into your lesson, find one and click on it. And then Pear Deck will work on inserting it into your list of slides. Feel free to go ahead and double click into the box and change any of the text that you want. You can put as many templates in as you want. When you are ready to present to the class, click on Start Lesson and choose either instructor paced mode or student paced mode.
In this recording, I went clearly through each step on the screen, making sure to say what I was doing as I was doing it. This will take a little practice on your part, and you will probably have to go a little slower than you normally would so that students can clearly see what it is you are clicking on. Now, in WeVideo, my screen recording and the recording of my web camera come into the media area as two separate files, which I think is a nice feature because you can decide when editing your video if you want to talk for a minute to students without showing anything else on the screen, or show just your screen, or both. I have also noticed that sometimes, instead of the two files dropping into this media area, it adds it to the two video tracks for me and automatically makes the view with my web camera smaller. But for some reason, it doesn't always do that. So I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. You'll also notice that I zoomed in on certain areas and highlighted what I was clicking on. I'll show you how to do these things in the next phase, post-production and editing. In this phase, you are editing your instructional video, making cuts if needed, and adding text, graphics, music, and transitions, and distributing the final product to viewers. Again, I'm using WeVideo to edit my video, but all editing software looks and acts very similar to each other. So what I'm about to show you should look similar even if you're using a different software program. If you only recorded yourself talking, editing is pretty easy. If you used a video camera or phone, you will need to transfer the footage to your laptop and upload it to the editing software of your choice. In WeVideo, you can add your recorded footage and any images or other external files in the same way. Click on My Media and then Import. Search where the saved files are and upload. If you are uploading several files, hold down the Ctrl key on your keyboard and select all of the files. Once they're uploaded, they'll sit in this media area. Click and drag the element you want to add to any of the video tracks. If you are adding music, that will need to be placed on an audio track. Now, you'll notice there are two video tracks. It doesn't matter which track elements are placed on except for this one thing. If I want to layer elements, the element I want in the background would be placed on the lower track, video track 1. And the element I want in the foreground will be placed on the higher track, video track 2, like I've done with this title playing on top of my video. To show you how to edit video footage, let's go back and use the Pear Deck model I showed you earlier. I want to add a title first because if I wait, I will end up having to move all of my footage to make space for it. And if I have several small clips from editing first, it's very annoying to try and move them later. Click on the Text tab and select a title and drag it to the track. Double-click on the title and edit the text and change colors. Next, add the video footage to a track and then cut any mistakes or extra areas of silence. I can do this by selecting the clip, using the playhead, that's this blue thing, and drag it along my clip to find the beginning part I want to cut out and click the scissors on my playhead. Then find the end part I want to cut out and click the scissors again. Now I've isolated the part I want to cut and could select it and hit delete on my keyboard or click the trash can right above the clip. Then I need to move the next piece of clip over to meet this other clip. Otherwise, it will leave a gap. It will also help to zoom in on the timeline to see the clips easier and make sure I'm placing them without leaving a gap. To zoom in on parts of my filmed footage, I double-click on the clip and select the Transform tab. Use the scale slider to zoom in or out on your clip. You may also need to physically move the clip in the preview window to find the right place you want to zoom in on. Once set, click Save Changes. If you want to highlight a button or a link that you've clicked on, find that area in your clip and zoom in, and then click on Text and select Callouts. This is where the layers come in. I want to drag the rectangle to the spot above the footage I want to highlight. I'll double-click the rectangle and physically move it to the location I want to highlight. Then I'll resize it, and I like to change the stroke or the thickness of the lines to be thinner and change the color to yellow. You can change it or leave it alone, it's really up to you. I also used my web camera. Since this recorded separately from the screen recording, I can shrink the view from the web camera using the scale slider again to fit it in the corner of the overall video. The last thing I want to do is add transitions. I do this to break up my videos into different sections or to fix mistakes. Sometimes in editing my videos, I don't always give myself time on the filming side, and to fix the choppiness, I drag a transition in between two clips. Once I'm finished with editing, it's time to distribute the finished product. Click the Finish button and decide the resolution. Remember, lower resolutions will work well for students with low internet connectivity. And decide where the video will be saved. I always keep a backup on Google Drive, but I want my videos to be viewed on YouTube, so I need to select that too. When it's finished processing on YouTube, it will stay private until you change the setting. To learn more about editing in WeVideo and how to use YouTube, check out these two playlists on my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to share my conversation with one of the teachers I used to work with when I was at our middle school, Corinne Miller. Corinne and I share a background in journalism, and when I was prepping for this episode, I noticed a tweet where she was looking at equipment for filming videos and invited her to come talk with me about it. So everybody, I have Corinne Miller with me. She is the journalism teacher at Manassas Park Middle School. So Corinne, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about yourself?
I'm also doing a yearbook this year, so I'll be the yearbook advisor and the news club advisor. So
oh, that's fun. Have you created instructional videos before, or is this something kind of new that you're jumping into for the fall, or did you create any in the spring?
I haven't really created any instructional videos yet. I have some pretty good experience with like video editing and like using like the sort of screen sharing and things like that. So I don't think it's going to be too different to try to put that together. But yeah, I haven't really put any actual instructional videos together yet. So I'm really excited to start doing that.
Yeah, I know. So is there anything that, I guess kind of in the process that you're like worried about or anxious about, or anything that you're kind of like, how exactly am I going to set this up?
I think it's really what I'm most kind of worried about with it is just figuring out, like, doing like the screen sharing and everything doesn't seem intimidating to me, or even doing the voiceovers or anything like that. It's just, I think maybe transitioning and like doing like the actual, like almost making it like an instructional video and then moving into the tutorial, I think is what I'm most anxious about. And honestly, just, I think doing, when you do a lesson live or like go through it live, there's time for questions, and you might like forget something that if a student isn't there to point it out, you might forget to kind of point it out. So I think that kind of stuff I'm a little bit nervous about, but overall, I think it's going to be just a great resource to have in general, because I even said, I want to do these virtual tutorials, obviously, because we're starting virtual, but I think they're going to be great to have just in general.
And definitely, I think, open it up for your students to say, is there anything that you were confused about by watching the video? Or are there other things that you were thinking about while watching the video? And that could kind of be like some questions that you could kind of have for students. So I'm kind of thinking, like, if you're creating something in Canvas, you could have that video embedded for them to watch, but have them some pre-thinking questions for them that as they're going through it, they can be thinking about these things and then going, okay, we're going to talk about this when we meet up synchronously. It sounds like this is something you want to take beyond the COVID-19 pandemic and continue to use this. So I guess, what are some of the pieces of equipment you're looking at maybe purchasing?
So I have been looking at really just basic sort of things. So just in terms of lighting, because it's not everybody has ideal lighting when they're filming things. So just having almost like one of those circle selfie lights that like people use. Yeah. So just something like that to sort of soften it and like make the background a little bit darker so it's not as distracting and things like that. And then as far as audio equipment, I'm just looking at like a basic mic, because video and like podcast people, they have high-end equipment, but there's a lot of great things on Amazon that are between, like, you can find a pretty good majority of the mics for under $50. So you can have pretty great production value with something. You just kind of have to look around, look at the reviews. I didn't want to get a mic that I didn't see somebody test in a video, because I wanted to hear, what does the quality actually sound like? So the little mic that I just got is just like a basic desktop sort of mic that I'll just plan on putting, it's actually supposed to come today. So too bad I didn't have it for this. But so just, that can sit by my computer. I also thought it was a good idea to buy a little like iPhone adapter. So the mic plugs into the USB in your computer, but just in case I ever did want to use it on my phone, I just got one of those, I forget what they're called. You probably. Yeah, like they just, plug right into the port, and then you can plug your USB in too. So then you have that in case you need to do it on your phone as well. Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. Yeah, I know I had looked at the ring lights, and I've gone back and forth kind of going, do I really need this? But at the same time, I'm like, it's that, I guess, that tech geek kind of in me coming out too, going, but it would be really cool to have. So.
And I said the same thing. I was like, really? I'm going to like set up in my little like office space this whole thing. But I really, in terms of production value, it's things that aren't really that expensive that just make it a little bit more professional looking. And I think that's worth it in the end, especially if it's something like you're making, like those tutorial videos. If you want to keep them for a while, it's better to have a more professional setup for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think if it's something that you really enjoy doing, and anybody, again, who kind of gets into this and enjoys doing this, that's stuff that you can still continue to use once we are back in the classroom face to face.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're still kind of new at creating instructional videos, but I've really thought about like our new teachers. They're walking into a completely new environment, not really getting a chance to be face to face in the classroom. But do you like have any advice that maybe you could give them if they're thinking about doing instructional videos?
So I think I kind of have two halves of advice. So like the first half, because if it's a new teacher that's not used to doing instruction in general, practice. Like go through with someone in your house and go and practice, clicking through if you're using Canvas, and, or if you're going into Google Docs and want something a certain way, actually do that and practice with someone so that you're comfortable when you're doing it with no one really. And then you kind of know what to anticipate.
Yeah, and I like that idea because even I have to practice stuff when I'm doing a video to make sure that it's going to be clear and exactly the way that I want it to come out in the video. So I think that's a great piece of advice.
And then I guess the second half is more specific towards doing like video or audio production, is to always have a script, never just wing it because it will not go well. Have some sort of script. And I also like to do, it was something I learned in school, of doing like a video. If you are doing a video, to do the script as 2 columns. So have what you're going to say, but then also have like what's your B-roll going to be over on the other side. So, or like the images that you're using or things like that, so that you have an actual outline when you're going through to sort of figure out your timing and everything as well. But most importantly, just like that practice and have a script for yourself, because the more comfortable you can make yourself when you're making like videos and things like that, the more comfortable you're going to sound in the video.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it is too different when you're doing something like Tech Tuesday, where I'm teaching teachers how to do different things. I think it's different than when you're teaching instruction as well, and you kind of have an idea of what those different pieces are, especially if you've been teaching that content for a long time. I think for some people, it's going to be a little bit more natural. It's going to be more of that anxiousness of going, I'm on camera doing this to no one really. Like I don't have that interaction with students. And so I definitely think the practice is going to be a big component.
Corinne, thank you so much again for taking time on your vacation, no less, to talk with me and share your thoughts. And that wraps up another episode. All of the resources mentioned in today's episode will be available in the episode notes on Wakelet. This link will be below in the description area. Thanks for joining me this week, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can get notifications of when I have new videos available. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next episode of Tech Tuesday.